I'm going to give you 4 ways to reveal the truth about proactive versus reactive jungling. We've seen the Dantes vs Agurin videos talking about these two concepts. People are saying it's easier to be reactive than proactive, but I want to show you how these two terms actually mean very little when you talk about the concept of jungle flow, which is just making good decision after good decision. You also can't confuse these terms with aggressive versus passive because that isn't the same thing at all. You have to remember that proactive actually means to be in control of something, to be in control of a situation. Doesn't necessarily mean just doing something blindly. That's high risk. That will be aggressive. You finish off a dragon, now you've got 3 possible plays. You can go ahead and invade the blue buff, you can gank bot lane or mid lane, or you can fall back to your camps. Each one is a different level of risk. If you choose the one with higher risk based upon, say, the back timers of the bottom lane and the enemy jungler respawning, that would be an aggressive play. If you decide to go back to your camps and kind of see what happens, then that would be more of a passive play. This is famously what Scenario said to me last year when he got to top 10 with Master Yi and obviously got to rank 1 with Master Yi this season. He likes to only go for those plays that have 80% chance of success because he's the best champion that scares with gold, and delaying that gold delays his ability to 1v9 games with his champion. This can be applied to any jungler. So just being aggressive or passive in a game like League means going for that guaranteed golden experience, say 300-400, over the potential of getting maybe 700-800, but you could also just as easily get 0, so coin flipping. And for those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Virkayu, founder of Virkayu.gg. I've helped tens of thousands of junglers reach their ranked goals from gold all the way up to challenger, and I make this content to help you climb with jungle 10 times faster. If you want help implementing this information into your own game, I have a free jungle improvement resource and a dedicated program, including jungle courses, weekly classes, private videos seen nowhere else, a full backlog of coaching VODs, and more, and that is linked directly below. So let's start off with a Dantes example here just to showcase what we're talking about with passive-aggressive, proactive, and reactive, and why those last two terms don't really mean much. As I said, proactive is control. Reacting to behaviors on the map is a direct correlation to your tracking ability and then gaining visual confirmation of that prediction. And when you have a vision score lower than the combined IQ of 3 sticks of wood, you're probably not making the best decisions on the best information you have. If we remove the terms proactive and reactive but kind of assign them to this Dantes example, you'll see he finishes off his full clear and he goes through the tri-bush. Pause. This is where a lot of people would say, hey, this is a proactive move to go for this scuttle crap. No, it's aggressive, it's high risk. Why? Because you should be paying attention to the fact that the enemy bot lane shoved up, moved up, and most likely warded that tri-bush while you were full clearing. That was within vision, we should have known this. But it's very important that you track those things all the time. You should also notice that the Maokai, when he ganked mid lane, you press tab, you see 12 CS plus a red buff when you actually click on to watch the action. Oh, he did his red plus Krugs and Raptors. Afterwards, you watch where they're moving and oh, he's going to his blue side. So this is why you can see these terms actually mean very, very little. Yes, the Maokai and the Talon are going to react to the fact that you've made this play, but that's just because it's an overly aggressive play with high risk. And I'm going to show you what Agurin would do in the exact same situation that people would call reactive or passive jungling, when that just isn't really the case. We're only talking about good decision making. That's all that really exists within the jungle. But first we have to get through this. So nothing happens here, he doesn't die and he's able to escape. That's wonderful actually, and he goes to double scuttle. After this he decides, hey, I'm gonna go and counter jungle the second spawn of the Raptors from the Maokai. Now some people in this case would say, hey, this is proactive jungling, stealing his Raptors because we know he started them, so plus 2 minutes 15 for the respawn timer. Hey, that now equals, 355 for the respawn. Yeah, but the only reason you're going for this and you know the respawn is because you had a ward on his red buff that showcased that he did Raptors first. If he did red first into Krugs into Raptors, those Raptors would only respawn at 4 minutes 35 to 4 minutes 40. That means blindly going for this Raptor counter jungling would be a stupid move, a bad decision based upon no information or bad information. Now you have to remember there's multiple ways this can play out. The Maokai hadn't even done his blue side, so he could finish that and you could argue probably should. However, he decides to rotate and try and cut off for the 2v2 fight. That's because he knows exactly what you're doing. And I'm going to give you the alternative play here that will actually make you understand what I'm talking about. If we know that it's warded in tri-bush and we want to remain anonymous to the enemy jungler, and we're farming jungler who sequences and focus on 6, much like a Hecarim, just go back to base. Talon has Prior in the mid lane, bottom lane has Prior in the bottom lane, Maokai's on his blue side quadrant, you cannot go and fight over that, you will simply lose out. So go back to base immediately upon finishing Krugs if bot lane isn't gankable. Now you can go straight to the top side scuttle, and because you have those timers on the Raptors and the Krugs, if you can fill your time doing, say, a top lane gank, a mid lane gank, you will be able to get those Raptors and his Krugs for free because a Maokai won't be forced to move over, he won't expect you to be there. Most likely he's spending his time looking to gank on the bottom side of the map. This would give you that control you so desire. And that's when I use these terms, and you've seen them in these videos, proactive versus reactive. I'm talking about the one who sets the tempo, the one who understands the map. And that doesn't mean going for aggressive plays, that sometimes means knowing when to give shit up so that you can get better shit somewhere else. Now we can call this aggressive and proactive and cool and difficult, but all it is bad decision making, because now you've compromised your overall level 6 spike timer. You get to the bottom lane, you go for a highly risky gank knowing Maokai's on the top side, your ADC has no HP, you have literally nothing else to do, so you're almost forced into a suboptimal decision. And because the Maokai had a delayed taking of his blue side quadrant because of your aggression early, those camps have not yet respawned. Whereas if you'd done what I said you should do, you would actually be able to full sequence down here. You might be able to get the kills here on the bottom lane with level 6, and if you cannot, you will have the respawns of his wolves and Gromp through a classical clear available to you at this time. In lower elo games, maybe you get the Raptors, maybe you get the Krugs, maybe you get everything you want here and a bottom lane triple kill. That doesn't mean they were necessarily good decisions. Now Agurin, as we shift over to this Jarvan example, is the absolute master of making the right play through an awareness that 99.9% of junglers just don't have. Dantes seems to want to force issues when he doesn't have to, and when he doesn't exactly have the advantages he thinks he has. So as our Jarvan does a full clear here, what I mean is both junglers get $100 in revenue, but Agurin has way more profit than Dantes does, because his risk assessment and his decision making are absolutely top tier godlike. He wastes no expenses, and he focuses only on making the right plays. For example, we're in the same situation here, bottom lane, mid lane, precarious, Kha'Zix full clearing down. We finish off our Gromp, we go straight back to base. I covered a video of him doing this last year already on Jarvan to counter jungler Sejuani on the top side when he had all losing lanes. In this particular case, you know the Kha'Zix is now on the bottom side thanks to vision. We know Kha'Zix is full clearing down and he's going to be doing that. So what we can do here is actually set up deep vision into his jungle by not getting a scanner. We can also track and maybe sneak away that second spawn Gromp if the Kha'Zix invests a lot of time into other ganks. But if top lane is gankable and diveable, we can do that as well. So what we go ahead and do is dive the top laner and kill the GP. The enemy Pyke makes a huge TP to actually kill Agurin, but there's nothing reactive about this play. This is a proactive play. Remember, when I say these terms and when we all use these terms, we mean to be in control. When we say reactive pathing, we mean, oh look, there's something on the map. I do my risk assessment. Hey, can I rotate and make an impact here, or should I just stay on the guaranteed golden experience? But if that's the case and we are continuously shifting these terminologies around, then all we can say is, hey, just make the right jungle decision in the moment that gives me the most golden experience. Because remember, golden experience are what you need to win games, because you need more of that, and the team with the more of those things wins the game typically. Another way to think about it is I'd rather have 5 out of 5 perfectly executed, well-assessed ganks versus 5 out of 10 just spamming randomly or saying, well, I got nothing else to do, I might as well gank bot lane. Oh no, the Jinx got a triple. Remember that from earlier? Now let's continue this game on a little bit because something interesting happens, and then we'll talk about how Agurin does this against, say, a hyper-ganking jungler who ends up 4-0-0, because it's also important to understand what you do when your laners are losing in this situation. He's finished his respawn now and says, hey look, I got bottom lane prio, I got mid lane prio, I know the Kha'Zix, because of my deep vision, is going to be sequencing down, and he will probably go to his Krugs. So what I can do is just do this dragon. The enemy team decide, hey look, let's actually make the aggressive play here and go for a little bit of a fist. Now the Sylas loses his primate, goes a long way around the wall, which compromises the numbers advantage, and Agurin dies. They lose the dragon. A long fight draws out, and Agurin respawns and, kills the Blitzcrank on the bottom side of the map. But what the Kha'Zix didn't do, and I want you to pay careful attention to this, is track the CS and understand what the enemy jungler was doing prior to that dragon fight and what it means for right now. The Kha'Zix likewise died, respawns, goes for his blue and Gromp, obviously. He's, hey look, top lane's pushed in, I can go ahead and gank that, and decides to go for it. Vladimir burns his ult, and then he can go for what people were calling the proactive aggressive red buff invade, and then they can say, well look, the Jarvan reacted. No, think about it. The Jarvan had sequenced top to bottom 2 times in a row, and the second time he had 44 CS at that dragon fight. 44 CS is your first full clear plus buffs plus a crab, which equals 28, and then you do your Krugs again, Raptors again, Wolves again, Gromp again. Hey look, 44 CS. That means if you extrapolate that clear speed after his initial respawn death that Agurin had on the top side when Pyke killed him, you would know that the guy has no bottom side camps available. And no, this isn't reactive playing, this is you as the Kha'Zix making a bad decision that's getting punished. And obviously here you can do your Krugs, you do your Raptors, and most of you are thinking, oh, free Herald, right? Yeah, but it's kind of difficult to do that when the Pyke has shown the propensity to roam first. And also it's a Pyke, so he can rotate a lot easier than most champions, he has a camouflage, and then Kha'Zix can come from base, you've got the GP ultimate. Kha'Zix would have spent all of his cash money gold, you wouldn't have spent anything from that kill. So we take the low risk play of saying, listen, let me full sequence down. I'll give you the Herald because I pretty much think you're gonna go for that, thinking I'm gonna go for it. And because of that, and I know you were sequencing top to bottom, your bottom side quadrant will be up. So I'm gonna take your Raptors and your red, shadow for the dive and the gank on the bottom lane. When Ezreal gets suspicious, I'll just wait and go back to base. If he shows up, I'll cancel, kill him, then take the Krugs, and now I can go back to base. All of a sudden, a Kha'Zix farming jungler just got 3 quadranted. That means I have 3 of the 4 quadrants of the map under my control and I've taken them in order. And then now Agurin can get a bit more aggressive. He can use this reset from that bottom side kill into a top lane push, get a dive going, steal the guy's top side quadrant Gromp. Again, we already took 3 quadrants, now we're taking the 4th. Use the river control to take a dragon, and now you have 2 ways you can play this. You can do this in the more passive approach of saying, hey look, I can do all my camp sequencing to the top side, or I can continue to leverage my proactive / control into a gank on the bottom side, more counter jungling on the bottom side. I can rotate to mid lane, shiver in the turret, get some plate gold, and then I can fall back to my camps. And of course, I call this the outside in rule, and you see the definition on your screen, just simply where you take the stuff furthest away from your jungle and then fall back to your jungle as a reward because, hey, they can't trail you forever and you've taken all their stuff. But within the context of these small examples, do you see what I mean by just taking good decision after good decision? And we can label some as aggressive, some as passive, some as high risk, some as low risk. But ultimately being proactive just means to be the jungler that's setting a tempo, and the one who's being reactive is the one who's trailing you, trying to make up for your plays. And that's difficulty. And look at this game here now. We full clear as Jarvan. Now someone's going to say, oh, you saw Gragas top lane with 20 CS. The only reason you went for his Krog counter jungling is because you saw him with 20 CS. Well, yeah, you don't know what they've done until they eventually show if you have no early vision, and you can actually count and track the CS and make that assessment. Thing is, always look for that gank if it's possible from a good angle. If it isn't, just go back to base. You can defend your Krogs from the Gragas who gank top lane from potential of being stolen. Obviously, at this point, he will reset. And the reason why we keep that warding totem, and I've been telling people for years, keep that warding totem because you can put it deep in the enemy jungle and track their randomness. If you expect them to go to Krogs and they show Krogs, cool. Now I know what I expected is going to happen and I can make the plays that I wanted to make in the first place. If he doesn't show up there or he shows up later, then I know he did something else. For example, he probably did his Raptors into Krogs versus doing the Krogs first. What this allows me to do is then move on down to his gank, get the kills, and shift on over to a dragon. This isn't reactive jungling. He proactively placed a ward because he has control, because he tracked his first clear, because he knew what he was going to do next. So he made the good decision, the high probability decision of moving to the bottom lane. If his bottom lane were completely wiped by the time he got to Wolves, he's not going to go there. He's just going to finish off his Gromp, go back to base, and look to do something else, probably on the Herald side. Now, what's funny about this career VOD scouting that I've been doing during these trips is that they do kind of like to go for these 50-50 fights over these dragons. We're able to get it in this case and die to the Kai'Sa. We respawn, we go to our top side again, Krogs, Red, Raptors. And as soon as you see, oh look, the Gragas is bot lane again, now we just use something I call equal and opposite jungling. That means if you see them do something on the other side of the map that maybe you didn't expect, just try and get equal or more value on the other side, especially if you are already there. Do your Krogs, Red Raptors, loop back up to the top lane, get the gank. Hey, now we can go ahead and take that Herald while he takes my blue buff. And again, I'm using we here instead of Agurin because you got to put yourself in the position of the jungler when you're watching these VODs. Otherwise, you're not going to learn anything. Say, what if I was in this position? What decision would I make? What is my risk assessment here? And does it match to someone who has a representative risk assessment to how I like to play? But if your risk assessment is way off and you keep making overly aggressive moves, you're going to die a lot, you're going to lose a lot, you're going to throw away tempo advantages, and you're just going to be a reactive jungler who's reacting to the tempo of the enemy because you have no control of the map whatsoever. Renekton killed the Silas, Agurin goes mid lane, shoves down the Herald, now can take Raptors Krugs, bot lane's going deep, can we help them? Yes, let's do it! And upon respawning, you know the dragon's coming up, you can see the bottom lane shifting on down, so as Jarvan, what would you do in his case? Take whatever camps you can get on your blue side and get to the dragon on time and snack that sucker up. All of a sudden, you're looking at a guy who's 114 versus 400, but has 20 more CS, 2 dragons, and a Herald. That's control. You're either the one that forces the enemy jungler to trail you, to fall behind, to react to all of your plays, or you're the one that is making all of the moves and controlling like a general from above, Darth Sidious in the background. You don't have to be obviously running in and dying at Raptors, or fisting over crabs as 4 people. That is just high risk, bad decision jungling. Make the good decision, and sometimes it's not going to be obvious what you're doing until you reap the rewards later. That being said, it's not like there's a lack of aggression. Look at this Canyon video. He basically did a full clear reset to go and take the top scuttle just like we had in the Kha'Zix example, but he knew Canyon would do the same thing. So instead of taking the scuttle, use his warding totem to get a whole bunch of deep vision and then try to kill Canyon on his Krugs. Canyon was Kha'Zix. Agurin died for it. He lost a 1v1. That is a risk-reward assessment that went wrong. We are all prone to it. We can play things mechanically badly, even though the decision is good. And that's the thing, right? You can make this kind of aggressive decision and go, well, I definitely would have killed him if I hit 1, 2, 3 spells. which means the decision was good, you just executed it badly. And there's the truth about what is proactive and reactive jungling and why the term doesn't mean much. Instead of thinking about it as good decision followed by good decision to create a flow of the game where you are in tempo control at all times. That is the goal. It won't always be a reality, but if you want to help yourself strive towards that more accurately, the video in the box on the top right is literally about this topic.